everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Night Oasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
I am.
How's everything going on your end, my friend?
Oh, it's going quite well, actually.
That is good to hear. As we talked off air a little bit before we got on here, everything's going on my end. Just a lot of stuff, and hopefully it goes better than it has been going. But nevertheless, we are here to continue on our Christmas Murderland marathon. It has been off to a outlandish start, and it keeps getting better. As we do these marathons and we go about our picks, what we always do is we go back and forth. If you pick the first one, I pick the second one, and vice versa. Last week, that was my choice, Christmas Bloodbath, and I said, Ian, the floor is yours. We have a lot of choices. Pick the one you want. And you did. And I love your reasoning. I picked it because it looks like ass.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm in. And we might as well just get into it because there's like no other fanfare. Elf in the Hood from 2024, last year. And there's a little bit of interesting tidbit on this one that when I was watching it, like, wait a second, why is that flashback in here? Because I don't know if you know this, Ian, but we reviewed way back in the day. I don't think we have that episode anymore. It might be one of the lost episodes, but we reviewed The Elf many years ago. I think 2017 when that came out, and it was one of those films that I pretty much frowned upon and just did not like. Because it was just not good. It was terribly made. It was just bad. And then a few years later, in the span of when Truth or Dare came out, the one about the wicked smile people causing other people to kill themselves, right? This is not Smile. This is Truth or Dare. And they had those big, stupid grins, right? And that came along, and The Elf was released by Uncorked, and
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and so during that of Truth or Dare, there was a sequel to The Elf called Elves, and that basically did the same premise of Truth or Dare, but then they added elves into the mix a little bit later, where you get possessed by the elves, basically. And that film was directed by Jamal Burden. And scenes of that movie was used in this film for flashback sequences when the drug dealer was touching one of the characters' arms. And he was like a sort of a voodoo priest type of character and a drug dealer at the same time. And flashbacks of elves came in there. And it's like, before looking into it, I was like, that's an odd choice. Like, I guess you could, they're doing the Roger Corman thing where they're just using old stock footage or something that they always just like use over and over again. Like, oh, it's easy. We have it. Just use it. It's the same company. And then it turns out to find out it's the same director, Jamal Burden. So he directed Elves, and then he continued it on with Elf in the Hood. So this is sort of a spiritual sequel to that franchise of The Elf, Elves, and then Elf in the Hood. So this is technically the third in that series of films.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you don't know that going into it, but then like, wait a second, there's some, the strings are all over the pinboard, and like all the pictures are lining up, and it's making sense. So yes, Elf in the Hood is the third in the Elf franchise. Technically, I mean, honestly, The Elf stands alone, so it's technically a sequel to Elves because they're actually using that footage. But I digress, since it technically it's there in essence, but it's its own thing. I mean, there's parts of the film that kind of make sense if you've seen Elves with, like, again, the elves taking control of people and making them kill themselves in that film. This one is a little bit different, even though it's, I don't know. So we're introduced to Malik and Jada, and at the beginning of the film, they're basically taking this guy hostage in front of their car and just wanting to know about this drug dealer named Slick. Basically, they owe Slick a lot of money, and they're trying to figure out a plan. They're up shit creek and trying to get out of it as fast as possible. And so not a lot is like story conceptual wise. The story is very thin. Things are just it's there. So apparently, like at the beginning of the movie, there's this ritual of the voodoo priest that lives in some ghetto city is doing this ritual on this doll, and like he cuts open a woman's stomach and rubs the entrails on all over the doll, and that apparently makes the doll come alive, or something like that in that regard. And then later, like once that happens, we're introduced to Jada and Malik, and like they stolen the doll, even though they don't show it. It's just implied that they stole the doll a little bit later on when they get to the Evelyn's character, which we'll get into. She's the appraiser of the film, and so it's this juju doll, and it's just an old cursed sort of doll that has special powers. So basically, Jada and Malik, they're on the run from Slick. They have his juju doll. The voodoo, I forgot the voodoo priest guy's name, like Rami, something like that. And like they're trying to come up with this money to basically sell the doll and get as much money as possible and leave town as quickly as possible. And that's like they go to the first one, which is the voodoo guy, and that's when he touches Malik's arm, sees the flashback, and at the same time, when all this is happening, Jada is having visions where she's looking into like he's saying, don't let her look into the mirror, or else it's going to take her over. So she's looking into the mirror, and she's having these visions, these horrific visions, where she basically pulls her own face off. And then she's also, it's not really described well, but she's marked on the back of her neck with a star. And so this is all, again, very, very little preface to anything. It's happening, basically. And so they go to the Evelyn, the second appraiser, and she comes in there. She looks at the doll. Basically, she knows that they stole the doll and they're wanting the money because apparently, I don't know, I guess it's a small town and she just knows everybody and she knows the big kingpin drug dealer apparently. And so like, okay, I know what this is. It's fine. I'll get my other person to come in here to look at it. She knows more about the dolls than I do. And we'll try to get, in and out quick, money wise. You just have to stay here in this house for a while. So Jada and Malik stay in the house, and the thing is, like, it's not really mentioned much as to the reasoning why. But like there's scenes that start happening as the film progresses because like the elf, the juju doll, is in this house being appraised, and it's in a locked cabinet, and then it gets out of the locked cabinet, and then it's on the table, and then it's like in the house. But then we're having scenes away from the house where it's attacking certain people. It attacks the voodoo guy, it attacks a cop, and like you're sitting there like, I wouldn't say confused, but you're just like wondering like, is there two dolls? And it doesn't really there's like not really much of an answer, honestly, to that question. Like, is he transporting? Like, is it just like as soon as he goes out to kill the Remy, he comes back and he's on a table? It's just like, it's very, I wouldn't say convoluted. It's just, it's not structured properly to like, okay, what's going on here? Even given its limited budget and scale, I mean, it's still like, it's not trying the best to explain everything that's happening throughout all the exposition and dialogue that's happening between certain characters. So Jada also has a sister that died recently as well. And Malik, she's sort of like still saddened by the loss of her sister, and Malik's just trying to like console her and like again trying to do all this thing to like I'm sorry about your sister and all this stuff, and he's just like he doesn't believe anything when the elf, the Jaja doll starts coming alive, and there's a lot of walking and meandering through the house of Evelyn's character, and and I'll just leave it at that. I mean, basically the elf comes alive and starts attacking certain individuals and stalking them, and he's a wisecracking elf. Um, Overall, it wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. Um, Truth be told, um, it kind of bored me a little bit because like you have this interesting idea of this wisecracking elf, and they kind of do. There's sort of like a throwback to like the full moon era of like when they did all these like urban horror films, like Ragdoll, Ooga Booga, um, even like I wouldn't say like the Tiny Terrors, like the doll movies, but like even like just like the urban horrors in general that they released like the early thousands, um, like Horrible Doctor Bones, The Vault, stuff like that, where it's just like urban horror stuff, and it's just like there's like parts in this like oh this is like a cool like interesting throwback to like those full moon days of those films, that they kind of don't do anymore, honestly. Even though Charles Band throws out any idea he can to make a film, he keeps the Ginger Dead Man franchise and the Evil Bong franchise going, and then we got with like the Ouija's now, which is like killer weed people. But like this has like inklings of like a solid idea that it could have been fun, But it kind of ended up sort of like Unlucky Charms, where it's like the idea should have been fun, but just like it kind of falls short.
Yeah.
Because like the whole idea of like Unlucky Charms was like again a sort of a throwback Leprechaun esque wisecracking horror movie with like a bunch of, it also kind of reminded me of Killjoy as well, with like the first one with the doll. But yeah, like I just found it just kind of, I wouldn't say pointless. I mean, there's like the gore. There's some good gore, honestly, that kind of surprised me, because there were some good, well done kills, for this budget and for this type of film that just threw me off guard. Like, wow, there's actually gore. And then of course the elf is sort of a combination of like an actual doll and CGI, and the CGI, while not the best, I mean it served its purpose for this type of film. And it's just kind of like, again, it reminded me of like the other films of the series, but again a little bit more polished. It's not great, but it's definitely better than previous installments. Again, I didn't hate it. I just it wasn't keeping my attention for what it could have been, because like that middle section is just a bunch of walking through a house, and there's like no reason to walk through the house because nothing's happening. You're basically waiting for this appraiser to come in there, and you're just walking through the house, and like, oh, it's dark and there's candles in the hallway, and like, what's going on? Like, why is the music all suspenseful? There's like nothing's happened yet. Why is everything so suspenseful? Yeah, you get the POV of the Juju doll, but like they don't know the doll's alive. Only the viewer does. And it's just like the music doesn't. It's just like it doesn't really fit for what's going on. Like if they knew the doll was alive and chasing them and stalking them, I could understand that. But like there's just like a lot of like missed opportunities with the film, and like. But Ian, I'll let you go back, give your thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth.
This definitely felt like a movie you would probably find or see on what was it? Tales from the Hood.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that movie so much. Yeah, no, like it was it was a lot more interesting than I thought it would be. I honestly thought I was going to hate myself after watching this, and I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, especially for a name like, Elf in the Hood, because I was sitting there just like, man, this is just going to be a Leprechaun ripoff. And I enjoyed the story, what it was about. I enjoyed like the lore and stuff behind it. There was just a lot of dead zones where like not anything was happening.
Yeah, it's a
The
short
one,
watch too. It's like only
yeah,
70 minutes.
yeah, and I honestly thought it could have been shorter. The one-liners, I felt like they tried too hard with it. Like, because I mean, it's obviously like super dubbed over.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm gonna cut you so bad, bitch.
yeah, like I mean, but it kind of also added the charm to the movie. Because like when that stuff was happening, I was just dying laughing. Because it was just so out there. I mean, yeah, it was a little try too hard, and it wasn't funny for the line. It was just like how aggressive and just like bad it was. So, at least it had some stuff going for it. But it was definitely like a pretty straightforward film. It was. I kind of wish they leaned more into the campy,
Yeah, it
because
was
it
too
fairly got.
straightforward.
Yeah, it kind of got weirdly serious at some parts, and I was like, I enjoy that they're trying to make this film into something deeper. But I kind of also felt like it was just like the it was just like so weird of tone shifting. Like it went from like goofy to, you know, serious, and it just kind of felt like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. And they wanted to do too many things at one time, and I felt like some of the things kind of clashed. Um but I felt like this film could have worked either way. Like I felt like, it could have been a little more serious if that was the tone they were trying to go for without destroying, what it was trying to be. But I felt like they were trying to do the campy and serious, and I felt like they just didn't.
Yeah,
uh
yeah, that kind of falls into like again a bunch of like stuff that like Killer Couch. Like that film is not good, but at least it's still like serious, but it's also sort of tongue in cheek with like it's a possessed killer couch. And then like the other one that it kind of reminded me of, where like they did the tone where it just did not work was The Drone, which is about the serial killer that dies and then his spirits gets reincarnated with a flying drone. And that one's like and it's child's play, but it was just like so poorly done. And like
yeah,
it's sort of like that, like it's so because it was so straightforward, and it's like it's a possessed killer drone, and it's like it's stupid, and it doesn't mesh well. And like this one, like as you said, like there's just conflicting tones. Like you have the wisecracking owl, Juju doll elf. Of course the white bitch falls down. Just like wisecracking, and you have like the practical, gory kills, which is like comes out of nowhere. Like wow, this is actually solid. Especially like the one with the foot, and of course like the entrails getting pulled out, and there's another one or two. But like you have that tone, and then you have like this serious like undertone of like um I wouldn't say addiction. Sort of basically there's like an addiction element to the film. Um and like the whole story of like needing the money before, because they're given a deadline to pay the money on Christmas, and it's Christmas Eve, and so they're trying to get this money from the doll that way so they can. But they're trying to get out of there, since Slick said, "I need the money by Christmas," basically, and like there's this underlying tone of like drugs and addiction and um, grief as well, and then you have this wisecracking urban juju doll that's going around making one-liners, and it's just like it just clashes, as you said. Um, like as we both mentioned, like it's not bad. It's like one of those. As I said, it's like just one of those later full moon features that's just not as good. Like it has a good premise, but it doesn't deliver on what it kind of needs to deliver on, and that's just like outlandish, you know, urban humor and stupid stuff, and like he's going around saying the N word constantly, the Juju doll, and so it's like I don't know if it was warranted. This isn't like Black Devil Doll or Black Devil Doll from Hell, just going around saying the N word. It doesn't feel like it's one of those vulgar movies for the sake of just like, oh, we're just going to toss the N word in there. It didn't felt like a grindhouse sort of exploitation movie that warrant that, like Black Devil Doll. But like it was just like it tries too hard. I think you mentioned that already. It just tries too hard, and it just like it's fine for what it is, but it's just like there's not that much energy. There's a lot of downtime and walking. It's just like there's not enough. Like you needed more like elf stuff, and like don't get me wrong, there's like elf stuff in there, but like it didn't really make sense to like what eventually is happening towards the last part of the film, because like the doll's going all over the place. He gets in a car and drives and gets pulled over by a cop, and like he was just on top of a table. How did he get a car? Like is he sneaking out and getting all this stuff? It's not really explained. Is there two dolls? It's just like I said earlier. It's just there. Like why is he after the voodoo guy now? Like he's the one that gave him life. So like why is that happening? Like he was the last one that had the doll. So he's not Slick, even though it's Slick's doll. There's just like too many like open roads that just like aren't really tied, doesn't get tied up at the end. Like they give you an explanation, but it still doesn't really make sense to what just happened that you watched the film do. So it just kind of falters in that regard. But again, like it has good effects, gore effects. Like the face rip was cool. I like the face rip. The practical effects were like, again, surprising to say the least. Like I said, it could have been one of those, fun sort of full moon tongue-in-cheek campy movies, and it tries, but it just like the tones don't mesh well, and it just kind of, like I said, falters in that regard.
Yeah.
And just like the story just doesn't. So they're locked in the house at one point, and they can't get out apparently, and like you have the appraiser Evelyn and the other appraiser that comes in there, and they're given the history of the doll, and like still Malik doesn't want to hear anything about a living doll, and then like again Jada starts getting possessed by the doll for reasons that are unexplained. It just, again, I guess it's grief, or she's easily addicted to stuff for the drug, whatever. I don't know. It's not fully explained. So there's a lot of stuff that's just like left fully unexplained, and you're just like left with like, it's fine. It could have been something fun. It kind of has a little bit of a charm to it, but it just doesn't really fully embrace it. And the tones clash, and it's just, after all of it, it's just like there's not enough to warrant like half the film, because it is just a bunch of walking in a house and like going through hallways and kitchens, and the dolls attacking people for reasons. I mean, there is reasons pertaining to why the doll's attacking all these people. There is an explanation of that, but again, it's a big exposition, dump at the end of the film. But it's just like, it's kind of hit or miss. Like there's good parts, there's bad parts. The CGI is not again, it's better than it previously was in prior installments, of the elf and elves. There's like some audio issues as well. Like there's like some parts where like there's like people talking and like there's no dialogue coming from their mouth or audio, and then like there's parts where like you can see like the Juju doll's mouth move, and like there's nothing coming out of him either, and like audio cuts, and then like some of the music cues are way too loud for what's going on. Like I mentioned earlier with the Malik walking through the hallway, and just like why are you walking through? Why is this music so loud for this particular scene? I mean, I get suspense, but like he doesn't know anything's happening. There's nothing wrong with the house, but it's just like, oh, the POV of the elf, like apparently. But I don't know. Like there's okay moments. It could have been better and honestly more fun. As it is, it's just kind of, I wouldn't say uninspired, because there's okay scenes, and better gore than anticipated, but it just felt like it was lacking in a lot of aspects to what could have made it a little bit more fun, and like sort of, again, like I mentioned, those urban full moon horror films with like dolls, like as I mentioned, Ooga Booga and Ragdoll. It's just like it could have been in that pantheon of films. Like it could have been a fun, triple feature or whatever if you want like an urban doll movie. As Ian said, like the scene with Tales from the Crypt with the dolls and the old lady who made them. Like it could have been like that, but as it is, I mean, even like the scene in Tales from the Hood 2 with the Golly doll, like that was ridiculous, and it's the best segment in that film. And like at least they went for the gusto of like making something ridiculous, when the lady gets pregnant, she starts spewing out Golly dolls, it's just like utter ridiculousness, and like that should have been sort of like in line with this one, where it's just like it's ridiculous, sort of, again, Leprechaun. I mean, there's no way not to see this as a Leprechaun film, because he's wisecracking and he's tiny. But I don't know, like it just didn't do much for me, and like I give it props for being better than I thought it was going to be, but like I kind of expected more fun aspects of the film. And again, I get that with the gore, but like the wisecracking remarks could have been like they were trying a little too hard, just like, oh, just throw the N-word out there for no reason, just because it's an urban doll and we're in the hood, throw the N-word out there. It just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel warranted. Sometimes, the N-word's warranted. It just felt like it's just like, throw it in there last minute. But I don't know. Ian, any final thoughts before we call this a show?
I think we covered everything that, we could, because without, running around and saying the same things over and over again. So.
Yeah, because the film, there's not much to really go into. That's the thing. Yeah. There's just like, it's very small in that aspect. It's just, they need money. They go to different places. They go to this appraiser. The house goes in lockdown for some reason. And then the doll transports from the mansion to cars and the other houses with other people. And then they slowly walk around the house. The elves sneaking up behind him, POV shot. And then it starts attacking the people in the house. Movie over. And then the reasoning's explained.
People outside of the house at the same time.
Yeah. So there's like not much, again, there's not much to unpack, with the film. So there's not, spoiler wise. But yeah, I pretty much went into everything I could think of with the film. It's
same.
It's okay. I mean, it's very middle of the road. I mean, a lot of people are going to look at this and like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, again, if they knew, like, again, the previous films of this series, like, it's definitely better than those in that regard. Even though Elves was a little out there, with like the whole possession and killing oneself, and then the doll elves coming in. It's stupid. I mean, that was kind of stupid. But this one, like, it's a little bit better than that one in that regard. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of our Christmas Murderland Marathon. We're off to a grand start. We're off to the races. And we're just going to go straight downhill from here. Hopefully not, with whatever choices we pick for the next couple films. There is one that might be interesting that I have planned. So we'll see how that turns out. So Ian, as always, it's great talking with you. Stay safe, my friend.
Likewise.
I know the weather's supposed to get bad again. So for those
Yeah.
listening in the area and the weather and snow's supposed to get bad, stay safe. As always, we appreciate everyone for listening and taking the time to enjoy our antics of the show and talking about these stupid movies. So with that being said, thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time here on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.